I think failure is something really important that quite a lot of people don't wish to talk about, and I really do. As we were discussing together earlier, through failure, if you are brave enough to feel the pain and ask yourself what you did right, what you did wrong, that is where you can find genuinely huge learnings. So now I find myself in my middle age, starting a new chief exec role. That was really my main motivation of how does their mother show them resilience, strength, acceptance, understanding, and all of those things that if you do have failures, you either brush them under the carpet and pretend that they don't happen or they didn't happen, or you really lean into them. Leadership is a privileged position of looking after others. At one point, I think the business was 88% female.
Ambition is not a dirty word. Impact is not synonymous with struggle. In fact, massive impact is absolutely possible with joy, fun, and sublime integrity. I'm Bianca Bess, author and founder of The Burnout Business, and this is the Big Impact Show, where success meets grace. I'm absolutely ecstatic today to be joined by the amazing Julietta Dexter on the Big Impact Show. And today we're going to be exploring how Julietta proves out her impact in the world with a gorgeous, graceful version of success. Julietta, I'm so happy to be having this conversation here today.
Thanks, Bianca. Thank you so much for having me, and that's a very generous introduction, I have to say.
Wow, I actually read your biography and felt really moved. I am so impressed by how you blend business leadership with this authenticity and this focus on ethics and integrity in business. And it's something that we don't see often enough. So I'm really, truly honoured to be having this conversation with you here today. Now, your incredible CV is a chronology of entrepreneurship and philanthropy and now CEO-ship. And there's a lot of dent that you have made in the business world over the past many years. So I'd love to, let's start with your story of impact. Could you give our listeners, our viewers, a little summary of the amazing Julietta Dexter impact in the world?
Well, I think the beginning of the story is I'm the youngest of three girls, and my father always used to come home from work and read the newspaper. And I've always thought that newspapers were the most amazing things. There's crosswords, there's the TV guide, there's politics, there's current affairs, there's recipes, there's everything. It feels like there's a universe in there. And I always remember thinking, I want to be like that. And my father always told me that when you read a newspaper, you are understanding of the macro issues in the world, sometimes the micro issues, and that's very helpful for business. So I've always wanted to be a business person, and I really enjoy work. The thing that I enjoy the most, though, Bianca, is, as you've said, is the people. I feel deeply fortunate to be here with you today, and I think that I've had the privilege of meeting so many wonderful, interesting people and working with those people for many, many years.
Now, you ran your first business for 25 years, and you described that business journey as championing and empowering women for a quarter of a century. And that's what really moved me in learning about your work and your devotion to industry, but also to people. Can you tell me a bit more about what you mean in terms of the empowerment and the female aspect of that workforce dynamic?
I think quite early on, I tried to decide what sort of leader I was going to be or try to be. And as we said earlier, Bianca, committed to a life of learning. You know, I think number one in leadership, you never know the answers. And the minute you think you do, you don't. So I think that that's always been a sort of aspect of my behaviors is questioning how I do things. I'm very committed to the idea of, you know, to a degree you would describe that as servant leadership. So I think that leadership is a privileged position of looking after others. And it just so happened that where I landed in 1995, starting my first business in a predominantly female industry, that I just found that I was building a community of extraordinary women who really enjoyed working together. At one point, I think the business was 88% female.
Wow. Okay. Okay. That's a significant dynamic. And you sold that business a few years ago and have now moved into CEOship in a new realm. Are you still as motivated, not running your own company, having a different dynamic and throwing yourself into work each day? Do you wake up with this invigoration? Is it different? Is it separate? Do you still feel the buzz?
Actually, Bianca, one of my go-tos in terms of values is transparency, and you're generous to say that I sold my business. I actually tried to disrupt my business and change it, and I failed. And so I think failure is something really, really important that quite a lot of people don't wish to talk about, and I really do, because I think that, as we were discussing together earlier, through failure, if you are, I think, brave enough to feel the pain and ask yourself what you did right, what you did wrong, that is where you can find genuinely huge learnings. And so now I find myself in my middle age, starting a new chief exec role, and I'm absolutely loving it. And I did wonder whether, if it wasn't all on my shoulders and it wasn't my business as a founder, whether I could do it, actually, whether I could have a boss, actually. And I'm absolutely loving it. We're committed to a life of learning. And I think that at the age that I am, with the knowledge and the scars and the successes that I've got, I feel even more motivated, particularly to show perhaps younger women, that, as I wrote in the end of my book, you can, if you want to.
That is powerful. So failure is always what leads to adversity builds resilience. Failure is a positive aspect of life. I love the fact that you're embracing failure so positively. It doesn't come naturally to a lot of people to lean into failure with a realm of confidence. How do you encourage in the teams that you lead a moment of experimentation and invite those opportunities for failure to flow through the business because there will be no judgment? How do you foster a culture that says it is okay to fail?
You know, so many businesses say test and learn, but they don't really mean it because you might lose your job. The world is in such a state of chaos at the moment, and the world of work is changing so much, not only because of COVID, that if you're not testing and learning, I think you've got a problem of potential stagnation and complacency. There are a couple of things that I want to say. When the business that I was involved in did not succeed, the first thing I taught myself and thought to myself was, what example do I want to share with my daughters? How am I going to behave in their eyes to not, frankly, collapse after 30 years of work? And so that was really my main motivation of how does their mother show them resilience, strength, acceptance, understanding, and all of those things that if you do have failures, you either brush them under the carpet and pretend that they don't happen or they didn't happen, or you really lean into them and say, what did I do well? What could I have done better? Could I have made different decisions? And that has really stood me in very good stead, along with a lot of breathing, a lot of mindfulness, a lot of today, I just can't do it. And you know what? That's okay. And I think that the other thing that I wanted to share with you, Bianca, is that if you do that, I think that you end up a much better version of yourself.
Hear, hear. I really agree. And thank you for sharing that honest experience. Often failure can indeed crush us. So for you to actually lift it up, to share the whole experience with your children specifically, that's incredibly powerful and enlightening for them and very courageous. I would really like to celebrate your bravery in embracing it that way. And I ran my first business when I was very young, and was learning along every day was a new experience, a new exploration, and it didn't always go right. And that's become a lovely chapter for me of a decade of experimentation that really was a learning period. And it's all different chapters in our lives, isn't it, where we expand. And if we can lean into those moments where it doesn't necessarily go as planned, but we're still expanding, then that's a beautiful life moment.
It's very difficult, though, because from when we first go to school, we're told that we have to get 10 out of 10 in a maths test, or get 10 out of 10 in a vocab test or a spelling test. So we're actually conditioned as children to achieve. And I think the debate today is, what does achievement and success really look like?
Absolutely, especially in this culture of perfectionism where social media is really tainting those publicly lauded versions of success. And I worry about the generations coming up. Our poor children, our poor children. So that level of expectation and the need to perform, there's such a correlation between performance and stress. You have obviously learned how to be an effective business leader, a businesswoman, managing family, managing authorship. We need to celebrate the book that you have written. And you epitomise a woman who has stayed in integrity. Can you talk to me a bit about the authenticity of you, the soul of you, and how you've brought that out into business, and where the confidence came from for you to own who Julietta is and for you to lead your life in that way?
It's a very big question. I think quite often entrepreneurs have had trauma of some kind. My father died very suddenly when I was 21, and I think that if there's a drive, I don't know, Bianca, maybe somehow making me feel that I would have made him proud, or that I was doing the most with what he had given me in terms of education and upbringing and opportunity and experience. I think there's definitely that. I think that in terms of me being me, I've had a lot of fantastic coaching, and I've been told that there's a little girl, Julietta, that needs to come out more, be maybe a little bit less measured, a little bit more spontaneous and fun. And I listen to that. I've really heard that, because sometimes I can think that everything's extremely serious and I've got to do my best all the time. And I think sometimes just being able to say, I remember my a wonderful coach that I've worked with, she said to me, have you ever just like left the office at lunchtime and gone shopping for the afternoon? I was like, I've never had a lunch break.
Oh, wow.
And she was just like, well, listen to yourself.
Yeah.
You know, what does that actually say about you that you can't lighten up a little?
And how recent is that?
Quite recent.
Well, good for you. Good for you. And thank you for sharing that. So how do you bring more fun into every day now? Are you shopping? Have you just come back from Oxford Street?
No, I've just come from a lunch. You know, Bianca, I do want to talk with you about my role as chair of SmartWorks, because I think that's where a big, deep answer lies. I was at a lunch in New York recently for female entrepreneurs, and the host said, can I ask you all to introduce yourselves? And luckily I was last. And I was thinking, oh gosh, all these powerful women are going to talk about their huge careers, and what am I going to say? And they all started with their voluntary role. They said, I have two roles. I have a voluntary role and I have a professional role, a paid role. And luckily when it came to me, I was able to say I'm the UK chair of SmartWorks, which is one of the biggest female unemployment charities in the country. And I'm also chief executive of Brand Potential. And so when I meet the clients that we look after at SmartWorks, so this year we will have helped 10,000 clients at SmartWorks through two things. And I think this will really speak to you. One is through giving them high quality clothing for free for their interview. And the second is decent properly delivered interview coaching. And 63% of our clients get the job within a month of seeing us. So when I think about my role and my values and who I'm trying to be and how I'm trying to live my life, when I dress clients myself, and I would love to invite you to dress with me.
Oh, that would be an absolute honour and a privilege.
And you meet our clients, I call our clients, who maybe have been out of work for years. Maybe they've been in caring role for years. Maybe they've been suddenly widowed and they suddenly have to go out and earn a living in their mid-60s, 70s. Or young women. We launched in January at the House of Lords the SmartWorks Unemployment Index. And it gives all the data. It gives all the data around what the experience of unemployed women trying to get a job in this country is.
And what is it? Tell us.
I'll give you the first shocking statistic. On average, our client, on average, has applied for 33 jobs before getting an interview.
Wow. And what is the support that SmartWorks brings then? It's the dressing, the coaching and...
Exactly. So a client will come and visit us.
Yeah.
She will be referred by the job centre, a homeless refuge, perhaps prison, somewhere, but she must have an interview to go to. And then we're powered by 700 volunteers across the country, across 11 centres. We also have a virtual service. And a client will come and she'll say, I have a potential job as a teaching assistant. So we say, OK, Bianca, what would you like to wear? And we've got showrooms of beautiful clothing given to us by the retail and the fashion industry.
Phenomenal.
And we'll dress her from top to toe.
And what is the impact? I mean, you must visibly watch someone bloom.
You see this, I'm not good enough, I can't do it, I'm not confident, I just can't. So shoulders are like this. And then very gently, the volunteers will say, do you like wearing fuchsia pink? Do you like colour? Do you like texture? Do you want to show your arms? And then we'll pull a rail together. And it's just super fun because you'll say to the client, what do you think about this skirt? And she'll say, oh, no, I'd never wear that. And very often, by the end,
they're twirling.
They're like, give me the bright red dress and the heels.
That's phenomenal.
And then once they've got their clothes, full outfit, umbrella, bag, shoes, everything that you would need. So you just don't worry about your interview, what you look like. And then they go through to a wonderful coach for interview coaching. They will always tell us, our clients, that they've got the job. And then they come back to us for what we describe as a second dressing. So we have a full database of the clothes that they've already been gifted.
Yeah.
And then we gift another 5 pieces for a capsule wardrobe.
That is just wonderful.
Super
I knew
simple.
I was going to love spending time talking to you and understanding a bit more about your world. If I can help and contribute in any which way, I would love to do that. I mean, that sounds like magic. That's just creating a magic moment that is then transformational. And
you know, I think, Bianca, when you talk about careers, I feel so privileged that I had the education that I had, that I landed on this planet where I landed with, you know, certainly parents that wanted me to do well and strive for betterment. And so when I really am at SmartWorks and doing my work, that is where I realised just how incredibly lucky I am.
Yeah. So there's that gratitude aspect to your life as well. I would love to know, Julietta, what is your definition of success?
I think the answer to the question is balance. Mm-hmm. I've worked incredibly hard in my life, and looking back, I realized that I didn't attribute time to some things that are very important. And perhaps one of those that I can share with you is not motherhood. I'm good there. I love my daughters beyond life itself. But I think my friends. Okay. I definitely did not spend enough time with my friends so far because it was work, work, work. And so I think balance of having a rich and broad life, of looking after yourself, having time for others, enjoying the nanosecond that is the privilege of this life and where we are right now, here today. So I think my answer, Bianca, is balance.
That's beautiful and meaningful. And I love the fact that you're talking about creating change and stepping more into this version of success as we sit here today. Final question. What is your big dream?
My big dream, I think, professionally is probably very much aligned to what you're trying to do. I really believe in thoughtful, empathetic leadership and growth and economic growth, but not at all costs. Mm-hmm. I think what I've learned is that you can have a wonderful profession and maybe you don't push your profit margins hard at the expense of everything. And that's, it again, comes back again, Bianca, doesn't it, to the point of balance. Mm-hmm. It's like, I believe that we have a way to go to balance what diversity really means. And that means everyone in the room. To celebrate men, to celebrate people of all gender, and to celebrate the fact that if we all got in the room together and had a brainstorm, we'd probably come out with a much better answer.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. That's a wonderful, noble dream. It has been wonderful. I could talk to you for hours more, and I hope we get the chance to do this again. Thank you so much for coming in today, and I really celebrate you and the impact that you're making. Thank you so very much.
Right back at you, Bianca. Thank you so much for having me.
What's reverberating with me after that interview is the question Julietta asked herself along her journey when she asked herself, how does a mother show her children resilience, acceptance, confidence? And she leaned into answering that question by exposing her own failures as a method to embody exemplary living to her daughters. I find that really moving and really brave, and I totally agree that if we can show the entirety of ourselves to our children humbly and honestly, then we are actually inspiring them that it's okay to fail. And I certainly try that with my children, and I thank Julietta for sharing her journey with us today in this episode. So if you enjoyed Julietta's version of Success with Grace, please join me for the next episode of The Big Impact Show, where I will be interviewing another ambitious soul who's stepping into their realm of success with grace.